quote, the most prevalent form of degradation in erotic life, unquote. The all-male family shown in the play suffers from a classic condition known as a mother fixation, in which there is an exaggerated reverence for the mother. Such people are attracted only to women who resemble the mother, but because of this, the shadow of the incest taboo makes the expression of sexual feelings towards them difficult or impossible. Hence, their only way out is to seek sexual relationships with women who do not resemble the mother and whom they therefore despise. So in order to generate sexual excitement, such men have to degrade their love objects, since if they are not so degraded, they will resemble the mother and hence in the man's mind not be available as a sexual partner. Thus, women are polarized into idealized maternal figures on the one hand and prostitute figures on the other. The exaggerated reverence for the mother is usually much diluted by adolescence, but if the mother has died before the child reached adolescence, as in the household shown in the play, then a damaging idealized image of her can live on and eclipse that of all possible sexual partners. Hence, when the brothers propose, the prostitute plan the husband accepts this because that is how he himself has thought about or fantasized about his wife in order to make a sexual relationship with her possible. Again, then the action which we see presented in the play turns out to be an enacting of the suppressed desires of one of the central characters. 104. Lacan, L-A-C-A-N, para. Jacques Lacan, 1901-1981, was a French psychoanalyst whose work has had an extraordinary influence upon many aspects of recent literary theory. Lacan began his career by taking a medical degree and then training in psychiatry in the 1920s. In the 1930s, he worked on paranoia, P-A-R-A-N-O-I-A, publishing his thesis on his patient Amy, A-I-M-E-E. His famous theory of the mirror stage, explained later, was first presented at a conference in 1936. Subsequently, his ideas were influenced by figures who successively dominated Parisian intellectual life, such as the anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss, 1908-, and the linguist Ferdinand de Saussure, 1857-1913, and Roman Jakobson, 1896-1982. Only in the 1950s did Lacan begin to challenge the orthodoxies of his subject field. In 1955, at a conference in Vienna, he called for a new back-to-basics Freudianism. But he meant not a new attempt to understand the, quote, conscious personality, unquote, the ego, and interpret its behavior in the light of an understanding of the workings of the unconscious, which many would take to be the whole point of Freudianism, but rather a new emphasis on the unconscious itself as the nucleus of our being. In 1959, these unorthodox views resulted in his expulsion from the International Psychoanalytic Association, a kind of world congress of Freudian analysts, and in 1964 in Paris he set up his own breakaway École Freudienne and published a section of his training sessions under the title Écrits, E-C-R-I-T-S. By this time he himself was one of the most prominent Parisian intellectuals. Para. Lacan's reputation then rests on the published seminars, the Écrits. A French seminar is not a group discussion but a kind of extended lecture for graduate-level students. The intense atmosphere of these occasions is suggested in an eyewitness account of Lacan's seminars in the 1950s. Indent. He speaks in a wavering, syncopated, S-Y-N-C-O-P-A-T-E-D, syncopated or thundering voice spiced with sighs and hesitations. He notes down in advance what he is going to say, then, before the public, he improvises like an actor from the Royal Shakespeare Company, ... He fascinates his audience with his impressive language, ... Lacan does not analyze, he associates. Lacan does not lecture, he produces resonances. At each session of this collective treatment, the pupils have the impression that the master, page 105, speaks about them and for them in a coded message secretly destined for each one. Quoted by John Lechte in Julia Kristeva, Kristeva, Routledge, 1990, pages 36-37. Para. Note here the emphasis on showmanship, on improvisation, on bypassing the formally structured presentation of ideas usual in lectures, and on the transmission of information in a coded form as part of an initiation process. Lacan says in the piece discussed below that the only teaching worthy of the name is teaching you can only come to terms with in its own terms. I emphasize all these to prepare you for the initial strangeness of Lacan's writings, all of which was based on the semi-improvised mediations which occupied the 2 to 3 hours of these weekly occasions. Para. The vast output of Lacan has not all been of equal interest to literary critics. The major interest has been in the following. 1. The essay, The Insistence of the Letter in the Unconscious, reprinted in David Lodge, ed., Modern Criticism and Theory, Longman, 1988, pages 79 to 106. 2. The seminar on Edgar Allan Poe's story, The Purloined Letter, reprinted in the Purloined Poe, Lacan, Derrida, and Psychoanalytic Reading, edited John P. Muller and William J. Richardson, Johns Hopkins University Press, 1988, pages 28 to 54, with extensive editorial, commentary, and annotations.